Good day, my name is Selekane. I'm the Chief Inspirational Officer for Selekane and Associates. We're a South African-based organization that has a global footprint. We do work with organizations and our core focus is to inspire and facilitate people and organizational change for bottom line improvement. Now, through the years that I've worked with a lot of different companies, from Fortune 500 companies to very small and medium businesses, in the shift of the economy, as we know that we are now in high turbulent times, I've come to realize one thing, that organizations are really struggling to find a balance between creating huge profits and giving their employees meaning. Now, being an African and having been one of those that truly believe that Africa is not a dark continent, I believe that Africa has always been a majestic place. I mean, if you look at the history, 8,000 years ago, Egypt was the center of the world. We did business with the Ming dynasty. So what it says Africa has and will always be a continent from which a lot of things could be learned, and the knowledge that could be learned from Africa can be applied into modern businesses today. Now, me and you know, it's quite tough to wake up in the morning if the only thing that inspires you is your salary. I've always believed that man begins to live when what they do is much more bigger than themselves, which means when you enter into a place of greater promise than your own personal needs. Now, if I look at Africa and I look at how we ran our things, I come to talk about or share with you a process I called awakening the spirit of tribal consciousness. Now, a lot of organizations, books have been written about changing structures, that, we run a flat organization, but the truth is there is no flat organization. There's always the shareholder on top who hires a CEO, and CEO hires a middle management, and middle management hires everybody to make sure that there's a return on investment for the CEO and the shareholders. But the truth is, at some point in time, meaning gets lost in the process of the pursuit of profit. But how do we bring back meaning into people's lives and make them be excited about really working for an organization? Well, let me share it with you this way. As I've said to you, that the modern organization, no matter how much we try and say we have changed, we are not becoming flat, the truth is we're not flat at all. Because we all know that here is the shareholder. Now, this is the man or the woman who bring in money. And who do they hire? They hire a CEO. And a CEO will hire his managers here. And they'll bring people here, and it will all go this way, and then the profits flow up here. Now, what happens in a lot of organizations is we've seen that life has changed. You know, America is in trouble, the Asians are becoming more powerful, and what I've realized is the fact that this model of an organization is not very applicable anymore. It doesn't create passion and enthusiasm anymore, because this group of people here feel very disgruntled, because no matter how hard they work, they can only make between 6 to 10% increase per annum. So what does it mean? It means each time they come to work, they just come to work because they've got bills to pay. But I want to share with you a different concept and say, in Africa many years ago, our tribes were constituted this way. Now, some of you might not know this, but the truth is it has happened many years ago, and we can learn from those kind of knowledge and understand how we can apply it to modern business. Now, at the bottom here was the chief, who was the head of the tribe. But the funny thing is, here was a complete tribe, and the tribe is made out of clans, and the clans chooses what we call the tribal council, which all the time speaks to the chief or through the chief, and eventually everybody becomes profitable, and everybody becomes happy. And I believe that if we look at the change in organizations and how we can then go back to great Afrocentric wisdom and apply it to modern business, I believe we can make a change. I believe we can learn and understand that once we can find profound principles that not only tells people to come to work because they've got a salary to pay, they've got bills to pay, they've got a mortgage to pay, but give them meaning, give them a place to come to where there's love, where there's passion, where there's space for them to grow. We can then begin to make things happen. Now, when I look at how this was made up, if you look at the word tribe itself, if you break it down into 5, you've got the T-R-I-B-N-E. Now, in our tribes, we had strong traditions. Now, let me share with you what I mean by strong traditions. I mean, we had what I call a rite of passage. Now, in modern organizations, we can call this, succession planning or upward mobility. Now, in our tribes in Africa, when a boy was born, he was not born into one family, but was born to the tribe. Now, what happened is each and every man in that society, or woman, if it was a boy, the man would be in charge of him, and if she was a girl, the ladies would be in charge. Now, what happened is they would teach them processes that they had to go through for them to actualize their stages of becoming man or woman. They'll be mentored, they'll be trained, there'll be a clear, defined process of why they need to go. But if you look at organizations nowadays, when somebody is quite important, who has got an amazing skill, when they resign or move from one place to the other, we then have this massive gap where we go into friends and we panic because we cannot replace the skills that that person has. Why? Because a lot of organizations don't have a clearly defined rite of passage. Some, they just talk about it and they hardly do it. But now the time has come for us to really go back and say, how can we make our organization really powerful? How could we create a powerful succession plan? How can we download the great wisdom from the men and women who've been with organizations for a longer time? And how can we tighten the gap between the X generation and the Y generation? So in tribes, we had a very clear rite of passage. So I'm saying, if you really want to understand how this works, we can engage more. You can go to my website, which is www.billyselekane.com. I elaborate a bit. You can book me and I can come to your organization. Well, the R in the word tribe speaks about responsibility. Me and you know that in the 21st century, one of the greatest challenges that organizations have is around responsibility. It's how people account for what they do. I mean, we have a telecoms company in this country, in South Africa, which I may not mention their name, but I promise you, each time you have a small challenge and you call them, they will take you from one department to the next department, to the next department, until you eventually drop the phone. I'm sure wherever you are, this has happened to you, where you have bought a product from an organization and something goes wrong with your product, and you go back to them. And the first person that you encounter passes the buck to the next person. They never take responsibility. Well, in Africa, it was quite simple. We believed at a higher level of responsibility, we believed in a concept called collectivism, which means we collectively took responsibility of the actions that we did inside our tribes and outside our tribes. Because if you look at the word responsibility, it's got two words in it. The first one is to respond, and the second one is ability. So if you do not have good enough abilities, you'll be able to respond to challenges facing you. So in most organizations, people are disempowered for them to have the ability to respond when clients come to them with challenges that they're faced with. And I believe that when we empower our people and we inspire them and we give them the ability through engaging them in training courses that are relevant to the jobs that they do, we give them more ability for them to be able to respond when a client comes through. And for me, that is very profound. And in Africa, we consistently believed that we should be collectively held responsible for both our failure and our success. Now, the word I, it talks about involvement. Now, for us, involvement was bigger than that. We believed in what we call engagement. So what we did is, each time we had a challenge as a tribe, we then have a tribal council. Now, in this tribal council, each and every clan that makes up the tribe would be part of the tribal council. Now, in modern organizations, what happens each time we have sales go down, we have issues with people, what do? Well, we go outside and get a consultant. He comes and he takes a few of the top executives into a beautiful place where there'll be lovely wine, good food, and they spend a weekend there and they do a thing called strategic planning, and then they come back and they tell everybody what they've been thinking about and how they believe the organization should move forward. And then they get surprised when nobody follows them. Well, there is no involvement in modern organizations. There's hardly engagement. A lot of employees are totally disengaged. They come to work only for what's in it for them. They don't really care what happens because most of the time, they're not given the opportunity to share their expertise. Now, in the tribal council, each and every clan is involved, and that clan sends in a representative, and that representative will share suggestions from the clan on how the challenge which is facing the tribe should be dealt with. Now, in organizations, people say we have a strategic planning session, or we have a meeting, let's send in departmental heads to come and talk to us. Most departmental heads never even listen to their people. And they come with solutions that most of the time, those solutions are archaic. They can never be, and they're not applicable because there is no engagement with their employees. Now, in all tribal Africa, there was total engagement. Each time there was a challenge, each and every person was given an opportunity to talk. And once we found suggestions, we then move into a solution. And when the tribal council, through the clan members, go back and report to the bigger tribe, everybody got enthused and they got involved in the process because they were part of the decision-making process. And in modern organizations, me and you know that. We pay lip service to the fact that our people are important. Now the B in the word tribe talks about belief. Now belief in modern organizations, we could call, brand, brand engagement, brand loyalty. How loyal are your people towards your brand? We could call it brand loyalty. I mean, how loyal are your people to your brand? And people can only be loyal if their belief system is congruent to the belief system of the organization. So if you've got people that don't believe in the products that you're selling, there's no way that they can go out there and become great ambassadors to your brand. But in the tribes, our people believed in the belief system that we used. And therefore, everywhere they went, they knew that each time they walked out of this tribe and had an interaction with the next tribe, they never represented themselves anymore. They were representing the greater good of the tribe. So anything that they said, the way in which they behaved, they knew that they were carrying a much bigger promise than themselves. So in most of the organizations, you find somebody works for BMW, but they don't really like BMW and they talk bad about it. You find somebody works for Nestle, but they don't like drinking Nestle products. It's because there is no brand loyalty, and that brand loyalty happens when the belief system of that individual or group of individuals is totally congruent to the belief system of the organization. Now, the E speaks about experience. Now in sales, and we all know that, most people, they buy emotionally and they justify with logic. We wear very expensive watches. Time from an expensive watch and a cheap watch is still the same. 4 o'clock still remains 4 o'clock. But why do we wear branded watches? We wear branded watches because the places where we go and buy these watches, they've given us a good enough experience to inspire us to make that purchasing decision to buy their brand. And that, my good friend, amounts to 56% of any buying decision. Anybody that buys, 56% they buy because they've got a very amazing experience. Now, in organizations, we don't create that experience where people come to work and they feel it's quite exciting to be here. I mean, statistics will tell you, Google, Yahoo, those kind of organizations, they've become so enlightened that they've created an environment where people come in and feel at home. But some organizations, they still have offices, closed doors. You only see the CEO when he does his Christmas speech once in a year. He's got his own lift. He's this super or demigod that it cannot be touched or be spoken to by normal mortal men that work for that organization. But in Africa, my good friends, experience was a big thing. We use a very simple process called Ubuntu. Probably you've heard about it. Some have not heard about it. What this concept talks about, it says, I am who I am because of who you are. We believe in the interconnectedness of people. We believe that no one man can become great without the help of others. There wouldn't be no Tiger Woods if his father was not there. There would be no William Sisters if their father was not there. There would be no Michael Schumacher if there was no team behind him. So we truly believe that one great individual can never reach the top until he or she believes that her or his success is intertwined and interwoven with the success of other people around them. And in organizations, what happened is we've got few salespeople that are top people and they don't care about the rest. We've got the CEO who earns 800 to 10,000% above a normal guy that works in an organization. So what it says we don't create experiences where people are inspired to come to work and make a difference. So what am I saying to you? I'm simply saying to you that the time has come for us to go back and look at what is it that we can learn from Africa. If you look at the structure, this is how a lot of modern organizations operate. But how can we transform ourselves and operate like a tribe and begin to have that spirit of tribal consciousness? I'm talking about a consciousness where we believe that together we make much bigger impact than we could individually. I believe that the time has come for the world to come back to Africa and to do business unusual, to come and learn simple and yet profound principles that are driven by Afrocentric wisdom, which can be applicable in modern business. Watch this space. I'll keep sharing with you these great experiences. If you want to interact more with me, please go to my website, www.billyselekane.com, BILLYSELEKANE.com. Till later.